never let them know your next move. On a cool, misty morning in New York City, a man named Ethan sat quietly at a coffee shop, his eyes scanning the bustling street outside. To the world, Ethan appeared to be an ordinary office worker. His neatly pressed suit and leather briefcase gave off the impression of a man heading to a 9-to-5 job. But there was more to Ethan than met the eye. He had spent years mastering the art of unpredictability, a skill that had saved him countless times in his unconventional line of work. Ethan was a strategist for an underground organization specializing in high-stakes operations. His job was to outwit opponents who always seemed a step ahead. In a world where intelligence and deception were equally valuable, Ethan's unpredictability was his greatest weapon. His mantra, never let them know your next move. His life hadn't always been this way. Years ago, Ethan had been a math teacher in a small town, leading a simple, predictable life. But everything changed when his wife, Clara, was diagnosed with a rare illness. The cost of her treatment pushed Ethan into a desperate situation, leading him to accept a risky proposition from an old friend who worked for the shadowy organization. What began as a one-time gig to pay Clara's medical bills turned into a full-fledged career after her passing. Grief and necessity shaped Ethan into someone he never thought he'd become. On this particular morning, Ethan was on edge. His latest mission was his most challenging yet: infiltrate a powerful criminal syndicate to retrieve critical information that could expose their global operations. The syndicate was infamous for its tight security and ruthless enforcement. Failure wasn't an option. Ethan's phone buzzed, breaking his thoughts. It was a message from Mia, his handler. Mia, package confirmed. Secure delivery by tonight. No room for error. Ethan took a deep breath. His task was clear, but the path to accomplishing it was anything but straightforward. He paid for his coffee, left the shop, and blended into the city's sea of commuters. Hours later, Ethan stood at the entrance of a high-rise building in Manhattan. He adjusted his tie, the embedded camera in its clasp activating with a subtle click. His cover story was impeccable: a corporate consultant with a scheduled meeting on the 42nd floor. As he entered the lobby, he casually observed the security setup: metal detectors, armed guards, and cameras covering every angle. "Good afternoon," he said with a confident smile, handing his fake ID to the security officer. The guard scanned it, nodded, and waved him through. Ethan's heart rate remained steady. His unpredictability came into play immediately. Instead of heading to the 42nd floor as expected, he exited the elevator on the 40th floor. He'd memorized the building schematics and knew the air ducts provided an alternative route to his destination. Crawling through narrow passages wasn't glamorous, but it allowed him to bypass the syndicate's hidden traps. Reaching the 42nd floor, Ethan emerged quietly into an empty conference room. He adjusted his suit and checked his watch. He had exactly 15 minutes before the syndicate's top operatives returned from their lunch break. The office's main server was located in an adjacent room. Ethan pulled out a compact device from his briefcase, designed to override the server's encryption. But as he worked, the unexpected happened. The door swung open, and a man walked in. It was Victor, one of the syndicate's most feared enforcers. "Well, Victor said, his voice dripping with menace. "Looks like we have an uninvited guest." Ethan's mind raced. Panic wasn't an option. Instead of reaching for a weapon, he broke into a wide grin. "Victor." "Just the man I was looking for," Ethan said, feigning familiarity. "Your boss sent me to deliver something urgent." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Is that so? What is it?" Ethan reached into his briefcase, his hand brushing past the device. He pulled out a sealed envelope, a decoy he'd prepared earlier. Straight from the top. "I'm just the messenger," Ethan said, maintaining eye contact. Victor hesitated, then snatched the envelope. Ethan used the distraction to subtly press a button on his watch, initiating a silent alarm to Mia. The moment Victor stepped out to verify the letter's contents, Ethan finished his task and slipped out of the room. By nightfall, Ethan was at the rendezvous point, a quiet pier on the Hudson River. Mia stood waiting, her silhouette barely visible in the dim light. "Mission accomplished?" she asked as he approached. Ethan handed her the device containing the stolen data. "It's all there." She nodded, a rare smile crossing her face. "You've outdone yourself again." Ethan shrugged. "Just another day." As Ethan walked away, the weight of his double life pressed heavily on his shoulders. He'd succeeded, but the cost of living a life where no one could predict his next move was loneliness and constant vigilance. Yet, in the moments of quiet solitude, he reminded himself why he did it, to ensure that no one else would suffer the way he and Clara had. In the end, Ethan knew his unpredictability wasn't just a strategy, it was his shield, his identity, and his survival. And as long as he lived by his mantra, he could face whatever challenges lay ahead.